Hi guys, and welcome to this week's science lesson. We're going to go ahead and start taking a look at the needs of a plant because next week you guys are going to be using the gardening kits that you've picked up from school to grow your own plants at home. So let's get into what plants need. So plants need 6 things in order to survive. They need soil, they need air, water, sun, space, and they need the perfect temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and take you guys outside to my garden so I can explain to you all the different things that plants need and why they need them. So follow me. Okay, we're out here. Winston is my lovely assistant. And here is my raised flower bed. So there's blankets on them because when I woke up this morning, it was actually snowing. So it was way too cold for my plants and I didn't want them to freeze. So the first need of a plant we're going to talk about today is temperature. So plants need the perfect temperature in order to survive. If it's too cold, then they're going to freeze, and if it's too hot, they're going to burn. So I was worried that my veggies in my garden here were going to freeze. So we went and covered them this morning, hoping to keep them warm. We'll lift the blanket off here to check on them. And it looks like they're still doing okay. So I have some dill here, and then I have some peas, and I have some other stuff planted down over there. So temperature, it needs to be a perfect temperature. It's too cold. It's still only about 3 degrees right now, and I don't want my plants to freeze, so I'm going to keep them covered. The next thing we're going to talk about is space. So if you can see here, my 2 dill plants are planted pretty far apart. I also, you can't see, but I have some carrot seeds that have not sprouted yet that I've planted down in here. So I have given my plants in here enough space to grow because the dill is going to expand on both sides. The peas are going to grow up my trellis. And then I have some green onions here that aren't doing so hot. They probably got too cold. But plants also need enough space because their roots start to grow and mature and they start to spread out. And if they're spreading and entangling with the other plants, then they're not getting enough nutrients and they need enough room in order to get the nutrients and the water from the soil. Okay, so we've talked about temperature, we talked about space. Let's talk about sunshine. So the sun is slowly starting to come out now. Plants need sun in order to photosynthesize. So photosynthesis is the process by which plants make their own food. So they need sun, they need air, and then they need water in order to make photosynthesis. The next thing they need is air. And right here, if we take a look at their leaves, this is where photosynthesis happens. So remember, plants breathe in carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen. Okay, the next need of a plant is soil. So this soil here is so wet because it has been raining for 2 days straight. But the soil has 2 jobs, and plants need soil for 2 different reasons. The first reason is the soil acts as a place for the roots to anchor and hold down in. So the soil is a protective covering for those roots, and the soil also has a bunch of nutrients that the plants need in order to grow big and strong. And soil actually has what's called nitrogen in it. And if you think about back to our worm composting bin, the worms create nitrogen-rich fertilizer, which I've already added into my raised garden bed here. Hopefully, my peas are going to continue growing really tall up the trellis. Same with my dill, my carrots as well. So plants also need water. Oh, I see a little bug. Do you guys see him? There he goes. Look at that. Perfect timing. Okay, so plants need water in order to grow as well. And plants need water for photosynthesis. And if the plant gets too much water, then they will drown and become very droopy and die. And if they don't get enough water, they'll also dry out and become dry. So plants need the perfect amount of water in order to create photosynthesis. And the water also helps the nutrients travel down from the roots all the way up to the different part of the plant. So remember that nutrients they get from the soil. On this side, I have some bean plants, and I also have a pepper plant. I'm hoping that he does okay. He's starting to look a little bit droopy. But I have some bean plants in here that are growing up my trellis, and your bean plants that you guys are going to be growing are going to look like this. I also have some parsley. I have some little strawberry plants here. I'm hoping that these continue to grow to produce some fruits that I will be able to enjoy and eat later. Okay, Winston, time to go inside. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. Come on. Now that we're back inside, let's quickly review all the things that plants need in order to grow. The first thing they need is perfect temperature. If it's too hot, the plants are going to burn, and if it's too cold, the plants are going to freeze. They need that perfect temperature in order to grow big and strong. The second thing that plants need is soil, and soil has two purposes for plants. Soil acts as a place for the roots to anchor into, and soil also has all that nutrients that plants need in order to grow. And that nutrients that plants need is called nitrogen. And if you have soil that lacks nitrogen, you can always add in different kinds of compost or fertilizer. The next thing that plants need is air. Plants need air, as in carbon dioxide, not oxygen, to breathe in order to photosynthesize. And photosynthesis is that process by which plants create their own food. Plants breathe in carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen, which we then breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. We rely so much on plants. The next thing that plants need in order to grow is water. Plants also use water for photosynthesis. That water also helps nutrients down from the soil travel up the roots all the way up to the different parts of the plants. The next thing that plants need is sun. Sun is also an important part of photosynthesis. Without the sun, plants would not be able to create their own food. The next thing that plants need is space. They need enough space to grow. If their plants are all pushed together like this, the roots are all going to intertwine and they aren't going to be able to get enough water and nutrients for the plant. So that's why in my garden, you saw the plants were planted pretty far apart, because once they start growing, the roots are going to mature and they're going to spread out in the soil, and the top part of the plants are actually going to grow outwards as well. Now that you guys know the 6 needs of a plant, you are all set for planting your bean seeds next week. But before we do that, I need you guys to go back into Google Classroom and complete the Needs of a Plant Jamboard. See you next week. Bye.